Here's my tutorial on the beans activity. First, get some red beans and some white beans. Don't have any of the extra small ones like this or any broken bits like that. We have 13.7 grams of white, 7.1 grams of red. We're going to divide by the dozens mass. That's this number here. In every case at this point, we're going to divide by these numbers up here. I realize that these match, but that's just a coincidence. So when we get down to the next part, down in here, we're going to divide by the dozens masses up here again. I divide by that there. That's 1 dozen white beans. Then it's 1 white bean per 1 cup. I know that because it's 1 white bean per 1 cup. That means I could make 1 dozen cups. Do the same thing here for red. I divide by that number there. That's 1, but it takes 2 reds to make 1 cup. And that gives me a half dozen cups are possible. In this case, we've said the bigger number is always wrong. The smaller number is the one that's really possible. So we'll cross out that one, use this one. I could make, in reality, half a dozen cups. Multiply by the mass of the cups, and I could make 13.9 cups. So this is the excess reactant, because I can't use it all up. And this is the limiting reactant, the red. We can use that. This is the calculated grams of cups, by the way, for later. Let's calculate the mass of the beans left over. Start with a dozen cups that could be made from A. This is the dozen cups that we can actually make. Remember, the bigger number is always wrong. So we'll start with a half dozen. Well, how many white would that use up? Remember, white is the excess reactant. We'll have some extra of this. Well, it takes 1 white for every 1 cup. And then we know we would be using 13.7 grams for every dozen in white. So multiply by the top, divide by the bottom, and we get 6.85 grams of white that would be used up. How much is left over? Well, we know we started with 13.7 grams of white, and we just calculated we would use up 6.85 grams. That gives us this math here. This is what we started with, this is what we used, and this then is what would be left over. I'm going to try to hit the masses that I started with, trying to hit 13.7 grams of white and 7.1 grams of red. I put the white beans on the scale and I get 13.66. That's close. Here I have red beans and I have 13.39. That's pretty close. I'm going to take those and set them both aside. Do not mix them up with the previous beans you have. Here's my 2 groups of beans, and I'm going to make little cups of soup by going 2 and 1, 2 and 1. 2 and 1. And there we have my little cups of soup. Now, you may have 1 bean left over. We're going to ignore that. It can't be helped sometimes, but you can see that I have way more white left over than red. So we'll just put this one aside there. That's how I got these numbers here, actual masses. And we'll pretend that I got 13.7 and 7.0 in my example here by actually weighing the beans on the real scale. So which beans are the limiting reactant? Which one run out first? Red. Which are the excess reactant? Which one had the most left over? White. Here are the beans from just the cups, the groups of 2 and 1. I find the mass of them for real, and that's how I got this number here in E. So in this case, I got 13.2 grams for the actual cups. Back here, we calculated that I should get 13.9 grams, and I got actually 13.2. So we have a percent error we could calculate. Take what you actually got minus what you should have gotten, at least theoretically, and subtract. Now, this means absolute value. So if you get a negative number, that's okay. Just take the negative off. We divide by what we should have gotten. my actual measurement on the scale for real minus what I got on paper divided by the theoretical amount that I got on paper that I supposedly should have gotten, times 100 makes it a percentage, and I got 5% error. Here are the beans that were extra from the cups of soup. Here's the mass. That's how I got this number here, the excess reactant. This is my amount that was left over, was not included in the groups of 2 and 1. Here's what I started with. Remember that back there when I put the white beans really on the scale for real? I got that. This is what I just found was used up by putting the extra white beans on the scale for real, and subtraction tells me I should have 7.2 grams left over. Does that come close to what we calculated? Well, we calculated we should have 6.85 grams left over. That's not bad considering we're working with beans and there are many sizes of beans. They don't all grow the same size.